Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys, and welcome back to Fine Print. This is our Sunday show where we take a look at a poem that you have written, and our goal is to analyze it. We're trying to see what is happening. What are you doing structurally? What are you doing with your speaker? What are you doing with your line breaks? What are you doing with your characters? What are you doing with your word choice? What are you doing, period? And we try to break it down and see how that's reinforcing what has happened. It's not about workshopping. Our goal is to just see what's there and seeing what we can make out of it to guide you in this process. There's me. Hello, my name is Jeff. I will be your host. And today we're really excited to look at a piece by a poet who's on Threads, and they also have their own platform, which you can find if you look at our video description with Labella Journeys. And they have sent us a difficult poem. I can only imagine how difficult the subject matter was, but we are certainly honored to be able to look at the poem. And I think you're going to see how some of the devices that she is using are being really serving a role of complementing what is happening. So without further ado, let's just kind of bring us up this poem. This poem is called Tiny Hands and Tiny Feet. Try to make it a little bigger for you all. Tiny hands and tiny feet. I dreamt of you in the depths of last night. I held your tiny hands and tiny feet. Oh, how I wish that we could really meet. Thank you so much to Bella for allowing us to take a look at your work. We again can't tell you how much we appreciate having this opportunity to review it. So, first things first, let's just I think when I'm looking at a piece, the first places where I always begin are the title, the first line, and the last line. And I want to kind of just see how these things are playing into the piece. So we have our title, Tiny Hands, Tiny Feet, which implies to me a poem about children. In looking at the subject matter, it seems like we're dealing with issues of loss with kids. As a parent, that's hard. Can't imagine going through that. And that seems to be kind of reinforced by what's going on in the poem. So I think that works well. Tiny's doing a lot of work, and the repetition kind of just hammers it in further. Though the body parts change with the hands and then the feet. I also like that choice of the ampersand instead of the writing out the word. I think that helps create. I think it helps the flow more, and it really draws out the parallel a little bit more strong because it's taking up less space. Taking up less space. It's also not distracting us with a full word to interpret. We just kind of get a symbol. So it allows the tiny hands and the tiny feet to kind of work together a little bit faster, in my opinion. The first line that I dreamt of you. Interesting with dreamt versus dreamed. I think dreamt almost adds kind of almost that more fantasy aspect in a way. I like the sound quality. Dreamt of you. Dreamed of you would seem a little harsher to me. Um, and also kind of puts us immediately into a state of fantasy, right? Like this isn't real, but we're also dreaming, especially like dream of you. A lot of times I feel like that has expresses like a hope or a wish. And I think that matches what happens in the piece as well. The very last line could really meet. I think that's really the strong sense of desire, but also impossibility. Could really, but no, we can't. That's unable to happen. And then what can't do what? The meeting, which doesn't actually occur, which again plays into the fantasy expressed by the first line. So I think the title and the first line and the last line are doing work here. I'm with it. The big things that stand out to me that I think really draw out the tension between the speaker and the other character in this piece. I think the big things that I want you to really pay attention to are Firstly, let's just look at stanza length. So we're dealing with tercets. And one of the nice things about tercets is their lack of balance. When you have a couplet, that almost implies almost like a strong union, strong relationship between two people. Once you get to three, now we're a little bit unbalanced. And I think that also kind of conveys the sense of, parents, if this is indeed about a child, having the three people that are involved, even though the poem specifically is focusing on the perspective of a single parent. Again, the implied three. And also the missing, the other parents not mentioned, but also the fact that this other character, the you, is also in a way not present as well. So you kind of having these. There's other characters involved, and yet there's almost not other characters involved at the same time. We're in kind of this weird state of imbalance that I think the tercets really work well to convey. The other thing that I think is doing a lot of work as well is the pronouns. It's like I dreamt of you, so immediately parallel. I did this. I have control because I do the dreaming, but I don't have control over what really happens, right? But I do have control over the dream. So I think that comes across well. But there's also the distance. It's not we. We doesn't appear till later. It's I dreamt of you. So there's this distance, subject, object. There's a verb and a preposition between us. There's the start of the line and the end of the line between us. We're not together. We're together in the line, but we're not. Even then, we're not physically together. And then it continues. I dreamt of you in the depths of last night. So depths. What a great word choice. So in the depths of last night. So this is, not just starting to go to sleep. No, this is like we still need to be asleep. We're gonna be tired. This is, what, maybe like 3 in the morning or something like that, which is and we're still being tormented. We can't escape this. In the dreams of last night. Last night also implies recency to this. So we have a speaker who's recounting from the present, talking about something that happened to them. So it's already the morning or the following day, but they're recounting what happened to them recently. So I think that's doing a lot of work time wise. And the heaviness, the depths of last night. This doesn't sound like it's a period of time that is pleasant. I think one of the things that I often talk about is I think a lot of words have an emotional pH. There's not really a word that's entirely neutral. There's a word that's maybe it's conveying joy, or maybe it's conveying anger, or maybe it's conveying frustration. For me, the sense I get with depths is I get emotional heaviness, in addition to a literal one. There's also the sense of like inescapability. Like if you're in the depths of the sea, it's not like you could just jump out to the surface. Like you can't necessarily escape this very easily. Then we get the next stanza. I held yours. So this is kind of similar to the first line, right? We have a little bit of distance between the speaker and the you, but now it's slightly closed in. The gap is shrinking. I held your. And we get more agency. So the speaker again in the dream is having the speaker dreamt. So the speaker controlled that to a degree. I held your. So again, we're seeing a little bit of agency. I did this, but again, this is in a dream state. I held your tiny hands and tiny feet. There's also kind of that sense of scale. You have the large speaker, which is kind of ironic, right? The speaker in the stanza takes up the least amount of space. It's just I. It's the you who is smaller, small enough to be held, not only that having their hands held, but also their feet held. They're small enough for all of that to happen for the speaker, and yet physically, The I is a single letter word. We have the your tiny hands, all that belongs to the you, and then the tiny feet, which also belong to the you. So I think that's you have these interesting subversions with space, where the I is so large but also so tiny. In the your hands and tiny feet, those things are tiny and yet they're taking up the majority of the stanza. So I like those inversions of scale. It kind of also plays in with the kind of just the dreamy nature of everything. And then we get to the reality of the final stanza. Oh, how I wish that we could really meet. So we get a final note of agency, but it's almost like false agency, right? Like I wish this. Yes, you can control what you wish for, but that also means that you, if you wish for something, the implication is that you don't have it, and that probably can't have it. I wish that we could really meet. This is the first time where the speaker and the you are unified. And with the pronoun we, it occurs here in the penultimate line. I like that. It's not the very last line, it's the penultimate line. That we could really meet. And then again, the implication that no, that's not actually possible. I like how the poem doesn't, it stays from the perspective of the speaker. It's not taking on the perspective of anyone else. Again, the other parent, whoever they are, is not even present. It's just the speaker. And they're also not projecting the voice of the you. It's just the speaker communicating with this you, even though they can actually communicate, right? But this is almost allowing that to happen, as a vehicle. The oh, how I wish that we, so that final unification coming, but not actually truly arriving. So I think I like that the we. This is the only place where that occurs. Before there was separation, separation, separation. The only time where there is no separation is when we're in the present. That's kind of ironic that in the dream there's constant separation. There's the you and there's the I did this to you. The only time where the I and the you are together is the moment where they actually can't be together, which is in the present, which is the oh I wish outside of the night. So I think that the irony being done here with the pronouns is extremely effective. Also like that choice. I like that choice that we, because it could have been easy. Just look at the line lengths here, right? If you wanted the lines to be more balanced, you would move up could. You would say, "Oh, how I wish that we could." But by keeping the could on the next line, I think one, it creates that emphasis on the we to end that middle line. So it allows that to stand out even further, which I like. And then you get that empty space after. You get all that negative space, which I think is really strong. And then that we could really be, and again, I think it allows that last line to kind of join together. To emphasize the by having could on the next line, it allows you to emphasize the we, and it also adds more emphasis to the could because it starts that next line. So I think that was a very smart decision there. Because you could have kept everything balanced, and then that's the other thing too. It unbalances everything. It breaks from maybe expectation a little bit. It makes things less neat because this isn't a neat situation. I think that line break is doing a lot of work. All right, so this is just some things I think are really working well for a poem. Again, not on easy subject matter. This is based on what actually happened. So if you're trying to copy something like this in your own work, these are the things I want you to be paying attention to. Pay attention to your pronouns. Use them with intentionality. How can you use pronouns to draw out intimacy or distance between your characters in your piece? Think about line lengths. Again, like we talked about in that very last line. If your poem is very regular, are there any opportunities where maybe you want to actually break that pattern to emphasize something that's occurring? Kind of like what we discussed with that final stanza. Other things to be paying attention to, things like tense, verb tense, seeing the shift between those first two stanzas versus the last stanza, and how it all kind of works together. There's not like a ton of time traveling going on. The poem, in a lot of ways, is set in the present. It's just the speaker referring back to something. They're telling a story in the present about something that happened to them in the past. It's not too much traveling. The space is also very confined. It's not like we're jumping from one location to another location to another location. No, we're kind of staying in a single spot, so that makes things more manageable for your reader. And again, in terms of the perspective, we're consistently in the speaker's perspective. We're not projecting onto other characters, and I think that allows us to kind of stay in the interiority a lot more easily from a reader's perspective. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this piece. I wanted to thank Bella again for sending it to us, letting us take a look at it. Greatly appreciated. If you have a poem that you would like to send to us for just kind of analyzing, seeing what you got going on, please do. You can tag us on Threads. You can message us on Instagram. We're at the Versus Poetry on both. You can also visit theversuspoetry.com. There's a contact page at the bottom everywhere where you can reach out to us. Thank you guys for a little bit of your time to take a look at poems. We greatly appreciate it. Hope to see you in a future stream. We're back on Sundays again with our fine print. And then on Tuesday evenings, right around 9:30 p.m., we have our weekly stream where we just talk poetry topics, craft topics, and business topics. Once more, my name is Jeff. Thank you so much for your time, guys. I'll see you later. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good